Welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Now in today's video, I'm going to be reviewing a very weird and wonderful watch from Merkur. It's a brand new release. I'll also link the watch in the description. It's totally mind-boggling. It definitely did boggle my mind when I took it out of the packaging. I actually had to research on how the hell you read this watch, how you tell the time. Unfortunately, I've not been in the watch industry as long to actually know what these watches are or how to tell the time. So I learned something new today while I was doing this review. Now, before we go ahead and look at the watch, we're going to spend a few minutes on this packaging. It's a new packaging from Merkur. It's effectively a watch roll. With regards to the material, it's not very clear. I don't think it's leather. I think it's just a good grade PU, but I could be wrong. But there's nothing on here telling me it's gen leather. Now, in terms of some of the smaller details that you have on this little pouch or this watch roll, you've got Merkur branded emblems on there. So for the buttons are steel, and it's got the Merkur logo, which is quite a nice logo. It's 10 past 10 on a watch face, which kind of becomes an M as well. So I do like Merkur's logo. I've never had a problem with Merkur's name anyway. So once you open this watch roll, you'll find a few sections here. On the right hand side here, you'll find all the information that you need, a bit of warranty information, a booklet, a little bookmark, what it seems, a cloth, and a little tool to size bracelets and help remove straps, etc. Merkur branded, of course. And then you've got two little flaps which hold two watches. Now these keeps here do also have these metal buttons with the Merkur logo. And then you've got the inside of this actual watch roll. It's a canvas material. The stitching, it's not great. You got a bit of tufts here and there, but it does have a slight smell of leather. That's why I'm not too sure. I'm not a leather expert, guys, fortunately, so I can't really call it on that. But yeah, so this is the new packaging, and this is the watch. So let's take the watch out of this pouch and have a look at it. And when I looked at this watch and I had it in hand initially, I was totally baffled, mind boggled. I mean, I've not been in the watch game long enough to actually know what this watch is. So I struggled. I struggled for about half an hour, 45 minutes, just trying to figure out what it is I'm looking at. It's effectively a single-handed chronograph slash pulse meter, if that's the right thing to call it. So you got base 30 pulsations, which lets me know it's something to do with your heartbeat, and then you've also got the absence of an hour hand. Now this is the first time I've looked at a single-handed watch, and as I said, totally threw me off. I'm looking at all these scales and trying to figure out what exactly is going on with this watch and how do I read it. So initially I looked up how to read the pulsation side of things. I also looked up how to read a single hander, but you'll also notice it has a red chronograph hand, which really does help on the pulsation side of things. So initially, as I looked at this watch, like I said, I was totally thrown off. Haven't a clue what this watch can do or what all this means, but after checking it out, I'm actually quite impressed. This watch is quite functional, quite simplistic as well. Ironically, I say that because just look how complex that dial looks with all the numbers and the readings, but we'll kind of break it down. I've managed to get my head around it just about, so hopefully I can tell you guys what exactly it is you're looking at. Now, this is also a slightly different case. We've seen Merkur do plenty of varieties of watches with so many different dial setups and handsets, etc. But they use kind of similar cases. But this is, I think, a newer case. It does look slightly different to what we've seen on a lot of the other watches, especially the last Merkur that I reviewed. So we'll be looking at that. And so let's start off by giving you some specifications, followed by the dimensions. Specs wise, this is full stainless steel. As you can see, you've also got a chronograph setup. You've got a domed sapphire crystal, a double dome sapphire crystal, so none of that mineral glass that they normally use. You do have a screw down case back with exhibition showing you the lovely Seagull ST1902 or 1903 or ST1905, whichever variant they've gone for. You can see that movement. Now this one does not have the swan neck regulator that you'll find on the Sugues watches, so it's not as premium as you see from Sugues. However, it's still the same ST19 whatever movement, has the same functionality, and it's always a lovely movement to look at. These open case backs, looking at these mechanical chronograph movements, you'd never really get bored. It's just amazing looking at all the blued screws, some of the detailing here, the cogs and everything kind of winding away. Especially if you're new in the hobby, this is awesome just to really look into how a watch works, and it's like great for people that aren't into watches that can see through it. I know every time I show somebody a mechanical chronograph, I really show them the face. They spend more time on the case back. That aside, looking at the dimensions, so the case diameter is 38 millimeters. You've got overall thickness of just 13 mil or 13.2. and then you've got a log to log of 47.5 millimeters. I like the dimensions, quite compact. 38 mil cases, and Merkur do so many of these 38 mil cases. It's definitely worth checking out Merkur's website to see all the different variants, and believe me, there are some lovely watches there. And yeah, 20 mil log width, and the watch is supplied, as you can see, on this suede leather strap, which states genuine leather, so we know what that is. And Merkur branded also on the back. Yeah, stainless steel buckle, etc. So as I said, it took me a long time to get my head around this, so let's go and address that, and let's look at some of the functional features of this watch. And it's great because it does more than tell the time, right? So let's zoom in a bit and let's talk you through the things that this watch can do. Now obviously most of the more seasoned, more veteran guys in the watch hobby definitely know what they're looking at when they look at this. But if you're someone like me, somebody new, you know, it's mind-boggling. I initially thought there was an hour hand missing. It probably broke off. But then when I looked at this little hand here to your left, it's supposed to be a sub dial. Without the sub dial, I thought there was a piece floating around, but then I recognized it was a seconds hand. So that is a bit useless, but I don't know if they had to put it in due to the, you know, movement style. So yeah, that's quite funny to look at. That's very quirky there. But now looking at the features, so let's look at the first one. So the base 30 pulsations. So this is an old school way that doctors or nurses use to quickly determine a patient's heartbeat. And it's quite useful. You can do this, you know, right now yourself. You know, if you do have maybe health conditions, or, you know, you just have a workout and you just want to really work it out what your heartbeat is. And I find it quite fun checking my own. So effectively what you want to do is trigger that chronograph hand and then count 30 heartbeats. Now, whenever you reach those 30 heartbeats, what you then do is stop the chronograph, and wherever that red seconds hand stops, that is your heartbeat rating. I mean, 170, 180 is quite high, so you're probably doing some vigorous exercise, but a normal heartbeat should be around resting well below 90. Let's look at around 75 to 80, because mine was about 75 and a bit. So you just stop it at 30 heartbeats, and that gives you your heartbeat rating. And then once you get past that pulsations function, let's look at the single-handed function. So how do you read a single-hander? So this single-hander is actually the minute hand only, so there's no hour, but you do have a sub-seconds little tiny little thing there. So basically you follow the hours around the track. Now you do have two tracks, so you've got an outer track which is 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And on the inside, you've also got the same 7, 8, 9. Well, it starts from there. So 0, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But if you look at the minute hand, it's actually got a little bit sticking out in red, which mirrors both tracks. So you can have a look at the inner timing scale or the outer timing scale. So it's a bit clever. So if you look at the time right now, it is dead on 7 o'clock, and this is what we're seeing. So the way to set it, so let's say, so you basically have to follow the hour and then set the minute hand accordingly. Now these smaller indexes, rather than mirror seconds, they mirror 5-minute intervals. So where you've got past the 12, so that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and so the larger indexes in the quarters, they are your 15-minute intervals. So if we say the time is 8:15, we actually turn the minute hand to 8, right, and then go to 15. So 8's just about there, and then we want to go on your first quarter, and that is 8:15. And to confirm that, we switch over to the other side, and this sub dial is quite interesting. It kind of magnifies the inner scale there, and you've got inverted colors within that sub dial, so it's actually 8:15, and you can see that a little bit better if you look on the inner track with this red tip opposing the minute hand. So yeah, quite kind of complicated a bit to get your head around. But once you get your head around it, it's actually very simple. So I definitely do get it. So right now it's 7 p.m. and then what I would do, just set it here. So that is spot on 7. And I think the whole single-handed kind of theory, or the philosophy behind it, is just, you know, being quite simplistic. You know, just seeing where you are roughly, you know, in your 15-minute intervals. You know, really, do we see each other or go do things at, I don't know, 7:24 is usually, you know, on every quarter at least. So yeah, so, you know, I like that they've put these functions in, and Merkur does have a loads of these watches with a lot of this vintage functionality present, which you kind of find in the mainstream watch game on higher end pieces. So it's good to get this down at a very low affordable level. In terms of the dial construction, it's awesome, right? It's done so well, so detailed. You look at all these straight lines, this guilloche style pattern. It's in white, very clear as well. You can see those. You can see those individual lines, but then you've also got these applied numerals. Multiple timing scales and tracks, very legible, very crisp and clear. Once you kind of focus your eyes on there, you know what you're looking at. You can see it. You've got the addition of these black discs that kind of break up that dial from your pulsation side, and then your inner track, and then that sub dial does look quite cool. There's a lot of printing going on. All these numerals on the outer scale are all applied, quite thin, and they're just looking at just how crisp and clear everything is. I think it's awesome. It's something different. America is one of the only brands that's actually doing this, and yeah, they do it really well, I have to say. So you got your Merkur logo just below the secondary time scale. What does it state? It says H something, and then you've got Meridian Chrono just above the 12. Subtle text, subtle branding. Now let's go ahead and see if they've given us any lume on this watch. So lume wise, there isn't much to look at. I think the lume's just been placed there for the sake of it. It's definitely not a dive watch. It's definitely not bright enough. Not a lot of lume applied. But yeah, I think it's just there for the sake of it, but probably in line with the vintage style. So let's move over to the case. Let's have a closer look at this lovely case. As I said, 38 millimeters. You've got this nice bezel on there, softly brushed, polished highlight around the side. Of course, it's a fixed bezel. Moving down to the lugs, linear soft brushing as well. High quality of manufacturing on this case, really well machined. The chrono pushers are polished, your basic pushers that you see on almost all these Seagull powered ST19 or 3s or 5s. Yeah, they work nicely as well. Nice positive clicks, good snapback on there. The crown does not screw in. It does have this red collar showing. You just give it a nice one pop in order for you to set that time. But just be careful when winding, because it is a mechanical chrono. As you wind it, you will meet that resistance, that tightness, and which is where you want to stop. The crown is signed with Merkur's logo. It's got good grip on there as well. A decent 6.5mm size on that crown. And you've got well-defined edges to the case, fully polished on the sides, nice shape to the lugs, polished center, giving you that vintage basic look. But the brushing does really help the watch out. It looks nice on this case, the way they've brushed it. And again, some of these smaller details like the polishing on the bezel, that brushing, does give the watch case a really nice look. It feels good in hand as well. It's soft, there's no sharp edges at all. Really well machined. Now on wrist, it's a really good fit. I've got a 6.5-inch wrist, and then combined with 38 millimeters by 47.5 on the lug to lug, it is very comfortable and it looks nice. The strap is quite soft, great proportions on that watch case, lightweight as well. I think it's going to be around under 70 grams for sure, maybe around the 50-gram mark. Very light, can barely feel it on wrist, and it looks good. It's something different, right? I mean, that black sub dial on the right hand side definitely does make it stand out. The red on that chronograph hand, the little red tip on the opposite side of that minute hand, it definitely does look a bit complex under initial looks, but it's got a lot of vintage character behind it. A lot of that vintage flair. When you saw all these old watches with just numerals and different tracks and tachymeters present, etc. So yeah, I do like it. It's grown on me since I took it out the box. Initially I was just so dumbfounded at what I'm looking at, but it's been a learning curve for me as well. So every day is a learning day. So definitely see the lesson today on how to tell the time. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you on the next one.